All right, it's week 12 coming up now. 11 is in the books. Atlanta is in the distance for a couple teams in the SEC. They see their path to the SEC championship game. There's one way to get into the playoffs automatically. If you want to get into the playoffs, you can win games, you can do whatever you want, but if you win your conference, especially the SEC, you're in. Right now, 5 teams have a shot to make it to Atlanta, to the national or to the SEC championship game. 2 of them control their destiny. The other 3 need a little bit of help. So what we're going to be talking about today is quickly what each team needs to make it to that game. You got to stick with us. There's going to be a lot of words here, a lot of if this happens, if this happens. It took like a couple hours to run all these scenarios. I'll put the link to the scenario running website. It's really, really good that you can put in and what your team could be doing to make it to this game. But let's talk about it. First, Randall, 2 teams that are in the driver's seat. I think it's pretty clear who those 2 teams are.
It's very obvious who those 2 teams are. If you've been watching college football, if you've been watching SEC football very closely, that's the Texas A&M Aggies and the Alabama Crimson Tide. We saw both of them get big wins this past week against Missouri and against LSU, and so it's more historic for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And so there's 3 scenarios for Texas A&M to make the championship game.
First is the clear one is win out. If you win your games, you're in. They got Texas, which is the big one. If you look at ESPN, FPI analytics right now, they're saying A&M has about a 22% chance of making this game. First one, win out. If you don't win out, you have 2 opportunities to lose. It's to South Carolina and Texas. With those losses, and not just to, if you want to have the graphic up, screenshot it, pause, whatever you need to do to read it. But, you're in. If you lose to South Carolina or Texas, you're watching Ole Miss. You need them to lose a game. You need Georgia to lose a game, and you need Texas to lose another game. Reason being is A&M has one of the worst conference opponent win percentages, so they lose the tiebreakers. In the SEC right now, it's conference record is first and foremost. Then you're looking at head-to-head, common opponents, how you performed against common opponents, and then the next one is your opponent win percentage in conference for tiebreakers. A&M loses that tiebreaker almost every time, which is why there's less opportunity for them to make it to this game if they lose.
Yeah, and A&M found themselves in this position last year. I've been seeing the tweets online. There's no possible way A&M finishes 8-4 this season. Kudos for that. Last year, going in a similar path, they had Auburn on their schedule. They had Texas on their schedule. They ended up dropping both of those games. Obviously, this year you have more leeway and you look better. So this is familiar territory for Mike Elko. It's familiar territory for Marcel Reed. It's obviously unfamiliar for the new receivers. But them boys dogs, I think that they will get there. But it is interesting to see, like, in the event they were to lose to one of those 2 teams, it is possible that Texas could beat Georgia. So, like, because Texas has something to play for, and they could beat Georgia, so they could get some help on the back end. And then Texas losing to Arkansas, I don't see that happening. But
you would need it. Yeah,
you would need both of those things to happen in the event you lose one of your last 2 games. And to your point, it's because of their opponents' record in conference. They've beaten Mississippi State, they've beaten Arkansas, they've beaten Florida. These teams haven't necessarily done that well in the SEC, and that for that reason, you don't have that leeway. You got an easier schedule, but you don't have the leeway of being able to rely on your opponent's strength of record.
And to their strength of schedule, something that happened, when you look at the other teams that are in contention here with Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, A&M didn't play them. So they don't have that opportunity for a head-to-head win. Their opponent win percentage right now is hovering around 25%. So that's really low when you look at someone like Alabama, who's at about 50% opponent win percentage. So if you're Texas A&M and you lose to Texas, it's going to be the last game. But what you're really rooting for right now, if you're a Texas A&M fan, you need to be cheering for any team playing Alabama.
Yeah,
that's your best path in, is for both Auburn and Oklahoma to beat Alabama, both of which could happen. And you need Texas to not only, if you do lose to Texas, you need them to have also beat Georgia. So interesting scenario here, because you probably, if you're an A&M fan, you didn't really know maybe that you needed Texas to beat Georgia if they're going to end up beating you. So that's a roundabout for A&M. And this is a asterisk on each of these teams we're going to cover. This is only for 1-loss conference scenarios for the most part. If we get to 2 losses, we can do a whole other video on that. There's a bunch of crazy things that can happen for 2-loss teams to make it. But this is the more likely scenarios.
Yeah, this is definitely the more likely scenarios. I know that for the other team that we're going to talk about here next, we've seen them win a lot of SEC championships. They most recently won an SEC championship 2 years ago with Saban.
Yeah.
So there's two things they have to do currently that have to happen for them to make it to the SEC championship game. So Hunter, no better person to talk about it than yourself.
Yeah, roll tide. It's an interesting spot to find yourself in here where you're really in the driver's seat, 53% chance per ESPN to make this game. All they have to do is win one of their games. That's all they have to do. They got, Eastern Illinois, will throw that out the window. It's not relevant here, but you have Oklahoma and Auburn. You just have to win one. You have such a strong opponent win percentage. You hold the head-to-head over Georgia. You have the common opponent in Georgia with Ole Miss. So you win all of the tiebreakers. All you have to do is win one of those games. If you lose two, there's crazy things that can happen to get them in. I won't run through that whole thing unless we need to. But right now, if you're Alabama, you just have to win one. So if you win that game,
if they win next
in.
week, you clinch next week,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
Interesting situation, because again, you would think with the way A&M's been playing this whole season, the teams they've beaten, they have some common opponents, right? Y'all both beat Missouri. Because of that 4-game stretch of playing ranked schools and their opponent's record, Alabama only needs to win one of these 2 games. You win out, obviously it's even better. Now you're talking more about the bye in the playoffs, but it's got to win one.
Yeah,
it's a good spot to be in after week 1.
Alabama, you're competing more with, you're competing more with A&M for that spot because you have that, like I said, the win over Georgia. You have the head-to-head or the common opponent with Ole Miss. Texas and Texas A&M are going to play each other, so it's less relevant to Alabama because the winner of that game matters more for that other spot between those two teams. So Alabama, driver's seat for the most part. Their playoff percentage right now, about 96% chance to make the playoffs. The only thing that could happen really is you lose both of these games and you start to look a lot worse. They didn't look the best against LSU. They ended up winning that game. Defense looked good. Offense, maybe not so much. But 3 more teams here that we can talk about that have a shot to make it.
Let's talk about it. And the next team we're going to talk about is the Dogs. The Dogs also very familiar with Atlanta. Most recently were there, a couple years ago or last year. They were there last year.
Yeah.
Stockton played in that game as well. So
Yeah.
2 scenarios for Georgia. I'm local here in Atlanta. Obviously, some ties there. They have to win out, and they need a Texas A&M loss to Texas or South Carolina. So they need Texas A&M to drop one of these last 3 games.
Yeah, and it could happen. I mean, we just talked about it. They need either that to happen or they need Alabama to lose both games. And that is to drop Alabama below them so the head-to-head tiebreaker doesn't apply anymore. Alabama with 0 conference losses, Georgia with the 1 to them.
It makes it easier. Like, we do this to make it easier for fans watching these games to know what to pull for. So, this is unfamiliar territory for Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
He didn't have these scenarios in the Pac-12. It's possible they do drop both those games. They lost to Oklahoma last year. So we'll see.
Yeah. And then, with Texas, if it goes head to head with Texas and Georgia, Georgia has the higher opponent win percentage, with Ole Miss and Texas, they have the common opponent in Florida. So that's where Texas, you start seeing some of these teams trickle down and why Texas is so involved in this as we go down, because Texas has some common opponents with a few of these schools. But yeah, Georgia winning would take that win over Texas as well. So a couple opportunities for Georgia to make it. Right now, ESPN has about 18% to make the conference game.
So yeah, about a 1 in 5 chance. Let's say round that up to 20%. And so still, these 3 teams still seem pretty comfortable in the driver's seat to make the playoffs. But when it comes to the SEC championship game, obviously all of them needs some help besides Alabama. The 4th team with one of my favorite coaches who loves a troll, Ole Miss. We just saw them beat Citadel 3 tutties for Trinidad Chambliss. In order to make the SEC championship game, Hunter, tell the people what they need to do.
And between them and Texas, each of them only has about a 4% chance to make it. They need a lot of help. They would need to win out, and they need Texas to win out. The reason that chance is so low is because of Texas's strength of schedule for the rest of the season, playing both A&M and Georgia. If that happens, they're in, as long as they win out. They have Florida, they have Mississippi State. Both of those should be winnable games for Ole Miss. Now, if they win out and Texas doesn't, they need Alabama to lose both of their games, and they need A&M to lose to Texas So you're rooting for 3 different games. A lot of these teams are rooting against Alabama. That's
Yeah.
the gist of it.
Well, because Alabama's a team that is the most in the position to be locked in. If Alabama loses next week, that's going to make it very interesting.
We'll be talking all kinds of different scenarios. There's only one opportunity where a team is rooting for Alabama, and we'll talk about that one. But for Ole Miss, take care of your business, and then see how chips may fall. You have that win over Oklahoma. That's why you need them to beat Alabama, and you have you need A&M to lose, obviously, to make a path for you. Ole Miss has a pretty good opponent win percentage. The issue there is the head-to-head loss with Georgia, which causes them to need Texas to win.
Right.
So a couple opportunities for Ole Miss to make it. Right now, they're pretty. I don't want to say a lock for the playoffs. 81% per ESPN to make it. They're sitting at that 6th spot right now on Sunday. I don't think that they'll change from that with the new rankings. So Ole Miss, whether they end up here or not, I think that they'll end up in the playoffs.
Yeah, I could see Tech jumping them in the rankings, but I still think that they will be within the top 11 to be able to make the playoffs. But that's just my thoughts. I think they'll still be fine. And good thing for them is that Texas is motivated to win their games because they want to be that 5th team to make it from the SEC. So they know that they really can't afford to drop another game because that opens the door for Vanderbilt as well. So that's they got that going in their favor. Same with Oklahoma. Oklahoma's motivated to get one of these spots as well.
Only a few of these teams are really have to root for a team who doesn't have a lot on the line, and that is the Arkansas game for A&M. That's really the only team on here that doesn't have a lot to play for at that point in the season. Pretty much everyone else that we're talking about has either a rivalry level matchup with Auburn and Alabama, or is another team who's also fighting for contention. So
yeah,
last team here, Texas, also very, very low percentage chance to make it. If they win out, they still don't make it because Ole Miss has, like I said, that common opponent win over Florida. So they not only need to win out, they would need Ole Miss to lose, whether that's to Florida or Mississippi State. Or if they win out, Alabama loses to Oklahoma, they still need Alabama to beat Auburn.
I think that scenario, plays in their favor probably the best compared to some of these other teams we've talked about. Like, we saw Ole Miss lose last year to Florida. I think that Ole Miss will win this week. We'll do our preview, but you never know. I don't know what Florida team's going to show up. I know what Ole Miss team's going to show up. I don't know who the hell Florida's going to show up as. Then I don't know what Mississippi State. The Egg Bowl is kind of interesting for a little bit last year too.
Yeah,
that scenario, and Texas beat A&M last year. They're playing in DKR this year, bringing it back to Austin. It could get interesting.
It's almost easier to see the things happening that they need to happen. The harder part is for them to go undefeated for the rest of the season. That's the hardest thing because of their strength of remaining schedule. It is so difficult. That's where the issue is here. But there's a path for these teams. I mean, they're also in playoff contention. They're lower than the rest of the teams we've talked about for that because of strength of schedule. ESPN has them about 45%.
Crazy scenarios. It definitely makes things pretty interesting. There's no other possibilities for the Oklahomas and the Vanderbilts to necessarily make the SEC championship game, but a lot of these scenarios that we've discussed could propel them to be in that 4th or 5th spot.
Yeah, I mean, you need help as Oklahoma. I mean, ESPN 33% of making it, Vanderbilt around 24% chance of making it. Those are really the only ones. Tennessee sitting with a very, very far outside chance of getting in, about 2% right now. But yeah, I mean, if you're Oklahoma, you have rooting paths as well when it comes to the playoffs and what you need to happen. And it's really just a shakeup in front of you. You need some things to go your way.
Yeah, I think you kind of want Georgia to beat Texas.
You want Texas to lose because as long as the record is the same in the head-to-heads they're going to be ahead of you. So you really need them to lose because you're not going to jump Georgia ever. Georgia beating Texas, A&M beating Texas, it helps to make one less spot in front of you.
This is like calculus because you have the one criteria to get into the SEC championship game. Then you have the committee's criteria, which is eye test, strength of record, strength of schedule, who beat who looks good in their jerseys. How did you win close? Did you dominate? Did you have a Heisman moment despite throwing an interception in the 4th quarter? I'm this is so much going on, but at least we know that what's controllable in the SEC championship game will probably pencil you into getting into the playoffs. But for the SEC, you got these 5 teams with some good chances to make it, and you got a couple teams on the back end with Vanderbilt and Oklahoma that still have an outside shot to get in, and they're playing some good competition. Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Auburn, or Oklahoma, Alabama. it's going to be a fun finish in these last 2-3 games. Any final thoughts on the scenarios, the SEC,
No.
and the football coming up this week?
No, if you're a fan of one of these teams and you maybe think we left a scenario out, or you want to hear some of the two loss scenarios of your team, drop a comment. I'll be happy to work a couple of those. I'm going to put the link in the description of the video for the scenario simulator. It's a really neat thing. We did it last year. Got a lot of love when we talked the scenarios last year. So let us know what you think. We're going to be doing the previews of these games as they happen, so be sure to tune in for that. As always, we love talking SEC football. I'm Hunter Ziesman, Randall Jr. here joining as always, and we'll catch you in the next one.